Welcome back to the show, folks. This is the Shankly Sessions, the Liverpool podcast. We bring you each and every week on the upper tier. Please, if you could go out, support the channel, smash that subscribe and bell notification button, hit the like on the video, share the content, comment, get involved in the chat, all that kind of good stuff. Tonight, we're bringing you a preview for Liverpool versus Aston Villa. Huge game coming at you this Sunday at 2 o'clock. Really important that Liverpool sign off for a win going into the international break. Would be a really good start to the season. As always, Aston Villa, always very tough competition. Klopp versus Emery, always a tactical battle. Emery, what a manager he is. Very astute, very tactically aware, and sure to pose problems to us this Sunday. But before we get into reviewing the actual game and stuff like that, Dar is in with me today. How are you, my friend? His prediction is either a 2-2 draw or a 3-2 to Liverpool. We'll take the 3-2. We will take that now. But before we get into it, we have a few little things to discuss today. It is deadline day, so we will be back at 10 o'clock for the final hour of deadline day. Really looking forward to that. Always good fun, that show and stuff like that. And what we'll do is we'll take you through all the deals from today on deadline day, and we'll also take a look back at all the Premier League teams and the business they have done, both ins and outs, and get your thoughts on that. So let's start. First of all, we had the Europa League draw was today. Liverpool, of course, drew Latsk, Union, Gilles, and Toulouse. So quite a good draw for us today. A favourable draw, I would say. Not too much travel. Belgium, Austria, and France, which is pretty cool. But the last one is kind of cool, or the Union one is kind of cool because McAllister's going to face his brother Kevin. And I don't know if you've seen the videos today, but the video was kind of cool. It was announced on the plane. Union were traveling somewhere on a plane, and it was announced over the captain announced who they had got, and the plane just went absolutely crazy. And your man Kevin said, "Looking forward to seeing you soon, bro," or something like that. See you soon, bro. So it was pretty cool. But yeah, I think this is an opportunity for Liverpool to potentially use a lot of squad depth and stuff like that. I think it'll be really important. It should hopefully lead to minutes for the likes of Ben Doak and stuff like that. Queevy and Kelleher, they should all get lots and lots of game time now in the Europa League this year. Nothing there that would scare us too much. We should coast through into the latter stages of it, no problem. So a well favourable draw. One more information today, of course, we'll talk about the signing of Ryan Gravenberch. I think this is a very good sign. It's a very positive signing. We have been linked with him heavily throughout the window and stuff like that, but Bayern were reluctant to let the boy go. Certainly fits the bill for us. Not necessarily the talk today, not necessarily an 8, not necessarily a 6, but kind of more of a hybrid and stuff like that. I did mention, I think Dave was on talking about it last night. I did mention on Dave's chat and stuff like that, that I thought a pivot with Trent with this boy might work really well in a combination of a 6/8. And I think that could work really well. I think it was clear that we weren't outside of Endo. I think it was clear that we weren't getting in an absolute 6. But I think this is a positive signing and one that's really important for us. He's a very tidy, very skillful baller. Great age, and I was mentioned today on Jack's channel. I was on the chat there today as well, and I was mentioned what a fantastic job we've done at bringing the age profile down. When you think about the average age of our squad last year and stuff like that compared to this year is absolutely phenomenal. So hats off and that kind of stuff we've done. Have we done enough in the market? Probably not from a greedy point of view. I would have liked to see a centre back come in, left-sided centre back potentially, or right-sided, and we could have shifted over. Pavard would have been perfect, but we didn't get him. He went off to Inter. So only time will tell whether we have done enough. And this Villa game is going to be a real test of that because Villa like to play in behind the line and stuff like that. Something we've been getting caught out for. So it's really important that we're aware of how Villa play. The boy Diaby is an exceptional talent and has really hit the ground running as well. And we know the threats from Ollie Watkins, McGinn, Ramsey, I'm not too sure is he going to play. He might be out with a knock. But they have a whole host of talent there that's more than capable. also Pau Torres there at the back as well. It's going to be interesting to test him. But that's our new number 38, Ryan Gravenberch. Welcome to the family. Hope he's an absolute massive success. And it will be interesting to see come Sunday. I know Klopp doesn't tend to just throw players in and stuff like that, but it'll be interesting to see, depending on how the game's going, does he put him in there at some stage and kind of invert Trent at that point and see what that inversion kind of relationship is like, or will Klopp go with the tried and tested so far and hold fire to kind of, he's obviously going to go off on the international break as well, so Klopp won't have a huge amount of time to work with him. Because we've the international break obviously after this weekend, so it'll be interesting to see what he decides to do. But I fancy Klopp might want to take a look at him for 15-20 minutes maybe before he heads off. Let's see what happens there. Other bit of news that's not sitting well with people at all. The question going around today, it's the biggest news story on the planet probably, is Liverpool have rejected a 150 million bid for Mo Salah. It was made up of 100 million. It was a verbal bid made up of 100 million and 50 million in different add-ons. Liverpool rejected it out of hand straight away. The talk that was Etihad were going to come back with 175 million bid to test Liverpool's resolve. And I was reading even somewhere earlier just before it came on that bid might even go as far as 200. So I suppose the question for you guys in the chat is, do we sell him? Does he go? If he goes, what does it mean? How do we replace him? Is there someone lined up that can come in? Will we roll on till January instead? Can the club afford to be refusing a bid like this for Mo Salah? How do we replace his goal contributions and his assists and that leadership that he provides up top on the pitch and stuff like that? He's an absolute icon around the world. And we can see why they would want him and why they would pay huge money for him. Do we roll the dice to January, or do we roll the dice for another season and hope that they come back in with a similar type offer? He'd be a year older, depending on how our year goes. The overriding factor, of course, is what does Mo Salah want to do? And depending on what Mo Salah wants to do, we have to respect his wishes as well. None of this comes into question in terms of his legendary status at the club and what he's done for us and what he's achieved, regardless if he goes. But this would be a huge amount of money potentially for the gaffer, assuming it's earmarked to go to Jurgen Klopp. I can kind of wrap my head around it, but so late in the window with no time to do anything is the one that concerns me the most. Unless Liverpool have had somewhat of an idea that this is coming, and they've done some work in the background, so who knows. But stay tuned, join us at 10 o'clock deadline day. Sure, a lot of information sure to unfold on this. An absolutely massive offer. So the question is Liverpool going to stay resilient and turn everything down? Or potentially are we going to be losing our talisman up front and the final piece of that legendary trio of Mane, Firmino and Mo Salah? Would be really, really sad if we lost him. But again, everything has to evolve. No one's bigger than the club, but he's absolutely vital to us. And the question is, the 4 or 5 guys that were then left with up front, are they capable of providing the goals and the assists, bridging that gap at least till January? Who knows? But certainly Liverpool so far have looked resilient. The gaffer has said he believes he's staying. So I'm sure any decision made on this would encompass the wishes of Mo Salah, but also with feedback from Jurgen Klopp and from the club before any decisions made. This is a watershed decision for Liverpool Football Club, no doubt about it. So it would be massive. I don't know about you guys, but he doesn't look great in that gear, does he? He looks much better in our gear. Right. Enough of the semi sort of good news and the bad news potentially. I think it's going to be very difficult to resist. I think they're going to come in with a ginormous offer, and I think Liverpool are just potentially going to have to take it. Anyway, getting on to the Aston Villa game, we had a preview earlier today. The gaffer gave us press conference letting us know that Kanate is not ready. Come back in. Virgil, of course, is suspended. Thiago has had a setback, which is going to push him back beyond the international break. Stefan is back in full training. Curtis Jones is back in full training. And Ryan Gravenberch has signed for us, our new number 38. So a lot of good news sprinkled in there, with disappointing for Thiago getting another setback. It's just so frustrating. Reminds me of the original days with Matt de Bernal, where he just pick up knocks and be out and out and out. And it's just really frustrating, but there's nothing we can do about that. Villa roll into town this Sunday. Unai Emery had a huge setback they did in the first game, got absolutely pumped by Newcastle. I think it was 5-1. Um, and I had tipped Aston Villa to do really well this year. I tipped Aston Villa even that they could potentially get fifth. And everyone was laughing, of course, after the first game, of course, Villa getting smashed 5-1 and stuff like that. But since then, they've had a big 4-0 win, I think, against Everton, and a 3-1 win against Burnley. So they look like they're on a bit of a roll, and they found their rhythm again. They've made some exceptional signings. Diaby has gone in there. Pau Torres has gone in there. They've done some really good business. But at the moment, looking at Emi Martinez, looks like he has returned to training after a calf injury. He'll be assessed ahead of the game. There's no doubt that he plays. Also missing for them, Alex Moreno could be missing. Bertrand Traore and Jacob Ramsey look as if they're all potentially sidelined. So I would say Jacob Ramsey is a loss for them. He's a serious baller, serious engineer in midfield. Let's take some comments. Daz is in. What's the crack, Niall? All good, Daz. Massive day today. Big day for Liverpool to see what they're going to do. He stays, I think. You reckon he stays? That's interesting. Hopefully. I mean, I suppose to look at this, if that amount of money is reinvested into the squad and stuff like that, down the road it would be really positive for us. But at the moment, it would be quite negative, Sterling not being able to do anything in the window. But be interesting to see if Liverpool have any kind of sneaky inkling that Salah wants to take this and stuff like that. Surely they've been working on something. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next. What have we got? 3 hours left to go. So let's see what happens. Richie's in. What's the call? What's the crack, Eno? What's the crack? And Acers. Worrying that Saudi Arabia transfer window doesn't close until next Thursday. Yeah, absolutely. But I don't think that's going to be the situation with us. I think if we're going to sell them or it comes to that, or we've decided to move them on and cash in, I think that will happen today. And I think we might try and do something. I don't think rolling into next week or the 7th or that makes a difference. Did they confirm it's actually next Thursday, Acers, as well? Because there was talk going around that it was the 7th. There was talk going around that it was the 20th. So I don't know. They probably make up the rules to go along. I'm going to get my laptop up and running for a few appearances on Tuesday Wrestling Podcast. Awesome. Good to hear it, Eno. We look forward to it, my friend. And Acers is back in again. Will they offer 200 next season for Mo Salah? I don't think they will. I know a lot of people are talking about it's another year on. He's an exceptional athlete. He's bound to have a real good season this season, well, his consistency and all that. I don't think they do, because I think after this season, is he moving into his final year or something like that? I'm not too sure. So I'm not too sure whether they come back with 200. They definitely want him. I mean, he's an absolute icon in the Muslim community in Egypt and all that kind of stuff. That's why they've offered him huge money, 1.5 million or something a week. And on top of that, he's getting something like either 5 or 10% of all beIN Sports. I think it's beIN Sports or whatever the provider is out there, subscriptions through Egypt and stuff like that, which is absolutely massive looking at the population. He's an absolute god in his own country and stuff like that. So, but I think if they come in with an offer of 200 million this evening, hats off to Liverpool if they refuse it. But that's a massive decision to be making, isn't it? Massive decision to be making. I have the starting lineup, Daz. I'm going to go through it now in a minute, my friend. Just going to go through a little bit more news first, and then we'll jump into starting 11 and get your thoughts on it. Acer, Sky Sports News saying next Thursday, Saudi Arabia. Okay, so it is then the 7th. Let's say, so that's fine, yeah, because there was talk, no one knew whether it was the 7th or the 20th, and sometimes they make these things up as they go along. Hussam will be heartbroken if Mo Salah goes. He will, and look, we all will. Listen, all Liverpool fans will be heartbroken if he's going. Listen, we were heartbroken when Bobby left. I was heartbroken when Mane left. I was heartbroken when Fowler and Gerrard and Torres and Suarez and all these players left. That's just the way it goes, but everything has to evolve. I mean, if he doesn't go this year, would he go next year? Would he go the year after? If his decision was that he wanted to go, is it fair not to respect his wishes as well, and how would that affect his situation? I know he's a professional and stuff like that. I know he'd get on with it and stuff like that. But there was a lot of telltale signs there. At the end of last season, he was the one who first came out with a massive amount of disappointment in the relation to the way the season had gone. I already spoke on the podcast. I said it back in May that I thought that the club or the ownership had made commitments to him when he re-signed about the ambition of the club and what they were going to do. I don't think they followed through on that. He seems to have been having to play in a very frustrating situation. He's been played out much wider and stuff like that, not in his optimal role till he was brought back in. So it was a very, very frustrating season for Mo Salah. And then he's had to see a lot of the players, in his circle, at his level and stuff like that. They're all playing mainly in the Champions League. He's now having to play Thursday night football in the Europa League. That will be a massive disappointment. Again, the rebuild that was promised this summer, has it delivered to the expectation of what they thought? It certainly hasn't delivered in terms of us as the fans. So certainly it wouldn't have delivered in terms of those as players. Those players did come out and they were vocal. Konate, Van Dijk, Salah all came out talking about what the rebuild, what was needed, that the squad needed major refreshing and all that kind of stuff. So is 10 players out and either four players or 5 players or whatever else in? Is that enough? Probably not. Doesn't sound like a rebuild to me. I think we're still real short at the back. But again, we'll have to see how it goes. But it's just there's a lot of catalogue of things there. We know that at the World Cup, he was whining and dining with the Qataris. He was having meetings with the PSG ownership, and it was all panned off as just being very social and all that kind of thing. But that's never the case, you know what I mean? And I was talking on Jack's chat today about the agent as well and stuff like that, and how the agent has always been upfront about what he wanted and stuff like that. There's no doubt about it that agent wants this move. The amount of money that's involved, this is generational wealth, and it's not going to be around forever. We've seen what happened with the China League and how it ended up with, and they were only pittance compared to this. But this kind of wealth, they can't hang around forever. They're going to purge all this wealth in there, front load it and stuff like that to give it the bump that it needs to get the recognition that they wanted to have. They're not going to be handing out these multi-million, billion-dollar contracts continually year after year after year after year. So I think these come around at a time, and I think when it comes around, it's very hard to resist it. I don't think Mo Salah is primarily a money person. This is a massive offer. This is wealth that sets up his family, his kids' families, his grandchildren. This is generational wealth. This is massive. You can't talk about this, Asos. So what that UEFA selected John O'Shea during the Europa League draw today? I thought it was going to be either Phil Bob or Jason McAteer or John Aldridge. I think they probably have to go neutral, Asos, do they? I think they probably wanted to pick an Irish person because obviously it was in the Aviva and it's been hosted in Dublin and stuff like that. But I think they probably had to go neutral, did they? They probably couldn't have a Liverpool player in there, but who knows? The other boy was from Sevilla, wasn't he? And they're in the Champions League. So they probably had to go neutral on it and stuff like that. Otherwise, probably definitely wouldn't have been Bob anyway. McIntyre, maybe John Aldridge. I don't know. I'm not too sure about that. I think John O'Shea was a good choice anyway. I think he handled himself very well today, and I think he looked the part as well. The navy suit with the green tie and stuff like that, and all that. It was funny hearing him talking about Liverpool at the start as well, and he was tipping them and stuff like that, but finding it hard to talk about and all. So the banter is still rife and it's still alive, and that's always a good thing. I enjoy that kind of thing. Let's get into lineups and get your thoughts on the lineups at the moment. Obviously, Liverpool sitting at fourth at the moment, 7 points from 3 games. Really good start, as I said the other day. Obviously, the Chelsea draw was disappointing, but to have 7 points after a trip to the Bridge and a trip to St. James's, I think is a solid start. So let's get into the lineup. This is what I am thinking. Sure, the great conversation, but I'm going with this. I am of the opinion that I don't think Darwin Núñez starts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I know he came on and he was absolutely fabulous against Newcastle. He was unlucky with the first opportunity he had. He just couldn't control the ball properly. But his body positioning and his movement for those 2 runs, for those 2 goals, was absolutely sensational, and two brilliant finishes as well. But I just know with Jurgen Klopp, he has a way of managing that whole situation and dampening it down somewhat. And I've had a look at some of the training videos and some of the videos coming out from Liverpool this week. And the squad looks like it's in a really good place. There's a good atmosphere. You know, you look at the post-match comments and all. Becker was absolutely brilliant. Allison was brilliant. Darwin was brilliant. Lucho was brilliant. They were all brilliant. And you seen what it meant to Virgil van Dijk as well. The shift that those guys put in to potentially right his wrong, if you like, whether you believe if it was a red or not, that's a debatable point. But certainly it looked like the team went there with a purpose to go and put in a shift to right that kind of wrong. Which was nice to see, and you see how much it meant to him when the boys came back in and stuff like that. But all week, a lot of videos have been coming out from the training and stuff like that, and there's a lot of smiling, there's a lot of togetherness now, and maybe they have that motivation and that bond that was missing at times last season and stuff like that. But definitely cannot go into this and take anything for granted. Aston Villa are a very dangerous opponent, and they're going to be one of the tougher teams that we come up against this season. Unai Emery is not to be, disrespected or taken for granted in any way. He's a phenomenal coach, and at times he has had the measure of Klopp. Now at Anfield, it's normally a different story. We've been pretty successful there. They haven't had much going for them at Anfield over the years and stuff like that. And we've got to go out with the right attitude. 2 o'clock game on Sunday. We need the crowd, as the gaffer said today, to be right behind the team. But let us know your thoughts on the lineup. Of course, this could all change greatly depending on what happens with Mo Salah. If something changes there, then obviously things are going to have to change. But let us know your thoughts on this. I think what will probably happen is I think Joe Gomez handled himself on the left hand side really well when he came on. Joe was a little bit not too sure and stuff like that. I liked when Kwanzaa came on and handled Callum Wilson against Newcastle. Trent's second half was absolutely exceptional, and the way he managed himself through the game after that early yellow card was really, really good. First half, very, very poor, so he knew he could only get better. The save from Allison is all about being the greatest goalkeeper on the planet at the moment. He's absolutely phenomenal. God knows where we'd be without him. Robbo, I think, was much better at times. Endo at times was a little bit questionable, but again, that kind of nervousness and anxiety that goes through the team when things aren't going your way. Van Dijk getting sent off would have affected that situation. Even Trent picking up that early booking, and that kind of, it was Endo's first real feel of the situation and what it's like in the Premier League. Very, very different to the Bundesliga and stuff like that, I think McAllister and Szoboszlai picked themselves. I thought Dom and McAllister were absolutely sensational against Newcastle. McAllister kind of drifted a little bit out of it towards the end. I thought Szoboszlai, I thought he was absolutely electric. I think having Gakpo back in the 9, I think, is important. I don't think he works in midfield at all. Lucho doing his bits out on the left. Very hard to judge Lucho, of course, because he had to come off when the Van Dijk sending off happened, so he got hooked. So he was pretty fed up with that and stuff like that. So he'll have a point to prove this week against Aston Villa after being hooked last week to make the formation shift. And then again, Mo, depends what happens tonight. Does the window close and we still have him? If we don't, then things are going to have to be shuffled around. I think Darwin will definitely be introduced, and I think that's how the gaffer will probably handle him. Jota the same. I know your Daz is in there talking about Jota. He must start or Jota starts. I don't think either of them are going to start. I really don't, and let's see what happens. But I just don't know. I think sometimes when they start, when you look at Jota when he starts, I think he's much more effective when he comes into a game than when he starts a game. It's like a car heating up in the winter time, isn't it? The way you go out and you start it in the driveway and it's not doing anything, and then it comes alive when you start driving it. Jota's kind of like that, you know what I mean? If he plays kind of full games, he can have a really poor first 45 minutes and then kind of comes alive and grows into the game. So I'm not too sure whether they'll start him or not. Now, listen, I'm a huge Diogo Jota fan, as people know. So I wouldn't be surprised, but I just don't think he starts either of those boys. I think he'll spring them from the bench, depending on how the game is going. I still think he'll stick with Endo. But I think if 20 minutes, I think we have a good stranglehold on the game, or maybe a couple of goals up and stuff like that, he might take Endo off then. And what he might do is he might introduce Gravenberch and then pivot Trent into the six with him and see, just have a look at that for about 20 minutes to see what way it's going to work. I don't think he'll go. I, I can't see him starting with Gravenberch and stuff like that and just having a kind of a flatter, if you like, midfield of McAllister, Gravenberch, and Szoboszlai. I'm not too sure what way that will work, because what that means is then is Trent is going to be sitting in the number two. There's going to be no inversion. He's going to be quite stymied and going forward and stuff like that as well. So I'm not too sure. And of course, the big thing this Sunday that we haven't touched on either is, and it's going to be a very proud moment even for us all as Liverpool fans, Trent Alexander is going to be the captain leading the team out onto Anfield on Sunday afternoon, and that's going to be really, really cool. That's something that we spoke about in the past, even prior to the captain changes with the players that moved on this summer. For Trent Alexander to walk out as captain of Liverpool, being the local boy and all that kind of stuff, that's going to be a massive moment. And I can't wait to see that. And I hope it inspires into a fantastic performance, and it could do. But it's kind of all up in the air at the moment in terms of the formation, with the exception of a few. But I think, it's going to be an exceptional game and stuff like that. But it's just, again, there's a few things to be decided. Who knows what's going to happen? Acers, I don't know if Mo Salah will be on substitute bench because he wants to move away. Darwin should start. Again, it'll be all up in the air, and be interesting to see. I think even if the move happens, I think if it's not sorted today, if it does happen and it rolls on, I think he has to get a send off as well, Acers, doesn't he? So he'll have to be involved some way. I don't think Klopp's not that petty, you know what I mean? Because this is not just a Mo Salah thing. If this happens, you know what I mean? This is the Saudi thing. It's FSG. There's a lot of people involved in this decision if it happens. Big up, Jack. How are you, my friend? Enjoyed those shows today. They were really, really good crack. Some crack in the banter in the chat and all. Big up, mate. Excited for the game. Going to be a good one. Yeah, absolutely. Listen, Liverpool, Aston Villa are always brilliant games anyway. So, yeah, it's going to be electric, but interesting to see who plays and in what formation is going to be really interesting. And everything has gone so corporate. Dress a certain way for a press conference. Play football a certain way. Try to be a little more PC. What happened? I tell you, money talks and BS walks. Yeah, that is the case and stuff like that. Folks, what do you think of our prediction for the weekend? What are we thinking? I'm thinking 3-1 to the Reds. That's what I'm going with. I'm going for a big win, 3-1 to the Reds, to go off into the international break with 10 points intact and a real good start to the season. And that's what we want to see. I think anything less than a win. And I know it's been a difficult week trying to get players in, trying to get players fit. All the hysteria of Mo Salah in the background and what's going on there and all is really, really difficult when you're trying to prepare for a really good game. And especially a game where you have to prepare so meticulously, because you're up against Unai Emery and Aston Villa, and they will be well coached, well versed, and well prepared. And like I said, the runs of Watkins and Diaby are going to be absolutely frightening, backed up with the likes of McGinn and all and stuff. So we need to be really on it. Acers, Diaby and Watkins will be delighted with Kanate and Van Dijk both out, just like any pairing that will be going up against us. Absolutely. So look, if it was anyone else, absolutely so. What's the crack with you, Jack? Desmond 2, defense will cost them 3 points. Okay, interesting. Yeah, we shall see. Eno's going with a 5-2 Liverpool. Take that all day. Happy days. Take a 3-2. I'll take a 1-0 right now. I'll take any win that they will give us. John saying on SmackDown and Payback. Yeah, absolutely. Should be interesting. Yeah, looking forward to Payback as well. Yeah, it's a good weekend. Super Sunday shaping up to be great. Us versus Villa, and then Arsenal versus Man United is going to be cracking, and even the Palace game should be quality. Great Sunday sport coming up at the moment. That's it, folks. That's my prediction. I'm thinking 3-1 to the Reds. That's the kind of lineup I'm going with. As I said, by 11 o'clock tonight, it might have all changed. I haven't had the latest updates while I've been on here about Mo Salah, if anything has moved, if any other bids have come in, or if Liverpool have told him to take a hike, it doesn't matter what comes in. Yeah, and reminded me there, yeah, the Old Firm Derby on Sunday as well, Aces at Ibrox, yeah, so that should be pretty cool as well. Stacked weekend of sport. Great when the football's back. And then we go off to the misery of international football, not we. But for us content creators, it's not too bad. It gives us just a little bit of downtime to not have to push out as much content when the international break is on and stuff like that. And well, it's been absolutely helter-skelter over the last few weeks so since we've come back this season. So it's nice to look forward to somewhat of a little break. Luton and West Ham 0-0 at the moment. That's going on at the minute. I expect West Ham to do the business there. Until next time, folks, if you could subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification, drop a like on the video, share the content, and of course support all the channels in the chat, especially Jax is in there, Anfield Road TV. Make sure you're giving them all the support and love. He's banging out the content, him and Spider, at the moment, and it's really, really great fun. And the chat over there is electric at the moment. You can't turn sideways, but you're going to get commented on something, so it's all good fun. Until next time, folks, have a great weekend. Enjoy the sport. I'll be back at 10 o'clock for deadline day for the countdown. We'll go down through all the business that the Premier League has done, or most of it anyway. We'll have a look at what's going on today. And by 11 o'clock tonight, we'll know, is Mo Salah still going to be around, or is he going to be gone? I know it'll roll on into next week and stuff like that potentially, but we'll get a real good indication tonight if they come back in with a massive bid and Liverpool reject that as well. Plenty of other business to be done. Lots of ins and outs still to happen. No doubt there'll be last minute loans and all that kind of stuff, and swaps and all sorts of stuff. So join me again at 10 o'clock tonight, deadline day, the final hour as we always do it. And we'll have a bit of crack in the chat there as well and discuss whether teams have done enough or not. Till next time, folks, an absolute pleasure.